Well, heard of the hashtag Why I Didn't Report? Well, it's reportedly started trending on social media after United States President Donald Trump called out Dr. Christine Blasey Ford in a tweet. Now, she's the woman accusing U.S. Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault when they were in high school some 36 years ago, a claim which he vehemently denies. Let's take a look at what the U.S. president tweeted. If we have that, let's put it up. He says, "I have no doubt that if the attack on Dr. Ford was as bad as she says, charges would have been immediately filed with local law enforcement authorities." He continued by saying, "I asked that she bring those filings forward so that we can learn the date, time and place." But folks, is it that simple? Is reporting sexual assault that easy? Well, to explore this issue further, Dr. Anshu Padiachi joins us live. She's the co-founder of the Advice Desk for the Abused, and she joins us from our Durban studios. Doctor, thank you very much indeed for your time in the Kavanaugh versus the Ford issue. At this stage, we don't know where the truth lies, but let's talk generally about reporting a sexual assault. I'm sure, survivors here in South Africa will tell you reporting immediately is not that easy.
It doesn't happen that easily. In fact, it is absolutely difficult for women to speak about it because there's fear. There's fear that they will be attacked again. There's fear that they will be shamed. So there's numerous reasons why women don't report it. In fact, in ordinary abuse, what we found at the Advice Desk is that it takes women a long, long time to report even domestic violence because they are either financially or emotionally dependent on their partners.
What other reasons, Doctor, do you find that women don't report immediately?
Well, again, it's the shame that goes with this. Is it my fault? Am I guilty? Did I do something? Oh, people would laugh at me if I talk about this, especially if the predator or the person who's abused them is someone who's wealthy, is powerful, is known to the community. They feel that they will not get justice if they go against that person because of the power that person wields. So these are some of the reasons, but it's a complex issue. And I think that more than anything, it's the fear that women experience. It's the trauma at the time of the offense. They sometimes feel a sense of paralysis. They don't know what to do, where to go, who to report to. And sometimes parents as well say, "You've shamed us by talking about it." So we need to look at this not just from the perspective of why they don't report. There are several dimensions to it: cultural, sociological, psychological, the whole power dynamic, and it's a very, very complex issue.
Let's just put this into context. Consider the Bill Cosby trial. Many victims had only found the courage to speak years after the actual abuse. In some cases, victims were threatened, accused of lying, verbally assaulted, and their morals even questioned. I'm talking generally, not pertaining to the Bill Cosby case, but generally. Is this indicative of a society that hasn't really changed its perception about women, that they would rather first believe that the female victim is lying or has asked for it, for the abuse, rather than, hold the perpetrator to account?
Well, I think that's been the case in a number of these issues, including the Weinstein case. Women would said, we were told that, did we tempt the guy? Did we do this? Did we participate? Did we enjoy it? So it's all of those issues. But I think mainly women who are abused by these powerful men often feel that they're the only ones. And if they do come up, so this sense of isolation, feeling I'm the only one, and if I talk about it, I'm going to be shamed, and my name is going to be, plastered all over the media, and what's going to happen to me after this. But also it's how their partners and how their family and the institutions see this. Because even in the Weinstein case, you would recall, many of the people within that organization knew about it, but they wanted to protect the brand of Miramax and Weinstein. And again, in all of these issues, you will see that there's protection of the predator rather than the victim. So the victim feels very lonely and isolated,
Yeah.
and this is what prevents them from going open on it.
I mean, to continue on your topic, your train of thought, the backlash issue, if we look at the examples in the US, I mean, there's been a lot of support for Brett Kavanaugh politically and from even some Republican women.
Yes.
Again, he has denied these claims vehemently.
Yes.
If we look at Bill Cosby, Cosby's publicist reportedly likened the proceedings against him to the persecution of Jesus. I mean, surely this in itself would create a fear of reporting sexual crimes, isn't it? The perceived backlash from fans and supporters who admire these people in power.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I think they have a big band of people to support them, whereas the victim is generally powerless, voiceless, and so doesn't have the support, let alone financial support, doesn't have the emotional support of people around her at the time. And also, remember, sexual violation of any person is a very private thing for people, for women especially. It's not something that they want to talk about easily. Weinstein would, and many of these predators often laugh about it and talk with their colleagues about what they did with these women. So it's very, very difficult indeed for women to come out and talk about it, and therefore takes a lot of courage. I often believe that there should be some way in which where women can document these and in an anonymous way, perhaps through a call center that organizations can establish, and we can see whether there are a number of women calling to talk about a single person, perhaps. Maybe that would be one way in which we could assist, but we need to really explore this and find ways in which we can get women to talk about this, and where they will be given protection.
You know, in terms of sexual harassment, the phrase "boys will be boys" just doesn't cut it anymore, isn't it? I mean, it's not a plausible excuse anymore. I mean, a fellow journalist summed it up for me quite succinctly, saying that by reducing sexual harassment to a natural male behavior, we make women the villain instead of the victim, isn't it? Exactly.
And also just the definition of sexual harassment, only if you feel uncomfortable about it, then it's sexual harassment. I mean, how do you define that? That's a very difficult thing to define. So we need to be very clear on this, and I think there needs to be much more discussion, much more education around this, and support for victims. I think right now it's the lack of support, it's the fear that their reputations are at stake, and people will laugh at them. I mean, this is what we hear constantly. So how do we get that right is the question.
Doctor, we thank you very much indeed for your time as well as your insight. Dr. Anshu Padiachi is the co-founder of the Advice Desk for the Abuse. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Yes.